Okay. Good afternoon. This meeting of the Preservation Board is now in order. I'm going to call a roll to establish who's here. Commissioner Robinson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Byzantiner, are you here?
Yes.
And I am here. I'm sure the others will catch up as we go through progress. Commissioners, has anybody read the minutes of the last meeting?
Yes, move we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Robinson. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor of adopting these as the minutes of the last meeting, approving these are the minutes of the last meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those are the minutes of the last meeting. Commissioners, look at the agenda. Does anybody need to recuse themselves on any issue? Does anybody wish to add anything to the agenda? Does anybody want anything subtracted from the agenda? Okay then, this will be our agenda. Staff, anything to add to the agenda? Nope. Good. Let's call agenda item A 1212 Dolman.
I'm Jan Cameron with the Cultural Resources Office. I'd like to submit a letter in support of the project from the Lafayette Square Design Review Committee. This is a preliminary review to construct a new detached single-family house in the Lafayette Square Historic District on Dolman Avenue, and this is the site. It's on the east side of Dolman, and it's directly adjacent to this recently completed new construction. There is the site, and you can see that there is a substantial area of vacant land to the north of it. Happy birthday. Thank you. And the site plan, which is very similar to what is the majority of the new constructions on Dolman. The model example, and the proposed front elevation. Now, the building itself complies with the historic district requirements in all but that side porch, which we'll go into in a second. This is the north side, and this will be facing the vacant lots. And this is the south side, which will be adjacent to the house we just saw. Okay, close-up of the porch. The porch is very large and does not really have a model example for it. It has been reduced in width and in complexity at the request of the staff. And details have been added to bring it more into the vocabulary of a Victorian porch. It is actually based on the example to the left, which was a porch constructed on another new building at 1722 Carroll. And the board members may remember that they reviewed this and approved it as an exception to allow the owner to have a means of accessing its wide side yard. And the other is a historic porch with the detailing which will be similar to what's proposed. Very quickly, context, this is the site again, heading northward along Dolman. Now we're south along Dolman, that's the large area of vacant ground that I spoke of. So you can see that by far along Dolman we have new buildings constructed. That's the mop factory. And across from the mop factory is a community garden and some more new construction on the west side. Most are 3-bay, 2-story, single family. So the staff is recommending approval and requesting a variance from the strict adaptation of a model example for the side porch. Any questions?
On this side of the room, Tony, any questions?
No.
On this side of the room, any questions?
So does the stoop on the south side, does that also require a variance or not?
No.
Okay.
Generally, when we review side porches that are side elevations that are somewhat visible from the street, we require that any deviation from the model example begin at the half point or back further, and that applies.
Okay, commissioners, representatives of the applicant are present. They have not signed up to speak. Do we have enough information to proceed? Commissioner Richardson, a motion.
I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the proposed new construction as the revised drawings meet the district standards with the variance for the porch.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Byzantiner. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Proceeding down the agenda, let's do 2843 South 18th Street.
Okay, Bob Bettis with staff, I'll tell the truth. It's also a prelim for a single-family new construction in Benton Park. This is the site of the project. It actually faces 55 and the brewery. You know where we're at. Map. Streetscape shot showing the new construction. It's the two-story guy in the middle as my pointer dies at the perfect time. As you can see, the block has a varying heights of buildings, 1.5 story, 2 story. But it fits with the streetscape in terms of setbacks, height, fenestrational lineup with adjacent buildings. The one to the right at the street, so it's kind of an obscured appearance of how it looks to the subject property. Here's the site plan. You can see the block has varying setbacks, so its placement's not inappropriate. Here is the proposed elevation. The same design was approved in Benton Park on Lemp a few months back. Same design was approved before, so you've seen this one before. Side elevations. The back was to mimic an addition, why it's siding, but it's also fine because it won't be too street visible because it's set back a lot enough, and there's a rise, so you won't see it very much. House on Lemp to the right kind of shows you a precedent for the design itself. So again, recommend approval on this one. Setback, material usage, it all complies. We have not heard from Benton Park, but they were made aware of the project. They're here. Have any questions for them? But we recommend approval. Any questions?
Commissioners on this side, questions? Commissioner on this side, questions? I noticed you looking carefully at the shadow. Okay, again, the applicant is present, has not signed up to speak. Do we have enough information, Commissioner Byzantiner? Make your motion.
I move that the board grant preliminary approval for the new construction with the stipulation that final drawings, materials, and colors be reviewed and approved by the Cultural Resources Office staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, commissioners, we're now looking at construction of a new mosque. I say that like we say that every day, every week, but we do not. 2326 to 46 Allen Avenue in McKinley Heights.
My name is Dan Krasnoff. I promise to tell the truth. This is a preliminary review to construct a mosque in the McKinley Heights Local Historic District. Staff recommends preliminary approval of the proposed new construction with the stipulation that details and specifications are submitted to the Cultural Resources Office for review and final plans. Next year materials are approved by the Cultural Resources Office. Let's look at the slide at the site of the proposed construction. Okay, this is the site where the building would be constructed. Let's see if I can get the pointer to work. So you see this lot here, and then it's L-shaped, so it goes back behind that building at the corner. The mosque owns this commercial building here, but it is not part of the proposed design today. So here you see that site again. You see the L shape. This is the parcel owned by the mosque. This is an aerial of the same site. So important to context, particularly here, I think, are is the industrial building along here, and then this row of single-family, mostly single-family homes along here, and then, of course, you have the two commercial buildings we referenced before. I should say that, going back to the last slide, I'm not going to change it, on the east side of Jefferson, this is the McKinley Heights Local Historic District, and on the west side of Jefferson is the Fox Park Local Historic District.
Sir, is the commercial building, is that Johnny Brock's and Randall's Liquor?
Correct. Here. That is. So here we are looking on Allen Avenue to the west. On the right here again is that industrial structure that's of some age. On the, or rather on the right, on the left, you can see the single-family building here, and then the vacant lot next to it. Here is the site of the proposed mosque. Now we're looking to the southeast. Again, the commercial building on the right of the picture is owned by the mosque. You have the L-shaped site in the foreground, and then you have those gambrel-roofed homes at the left side of the picture extending down east on Allen Avenue. This again is looking east on Allen Avenue, and I think you can see that industrial structure on the left and the houses on the right. All right, I'm actually going to go back to that. I'd like to talk about the standards themselves, and then we'll go into design issues of the site. Article 3 of the McKinley Heights Standards deals with new construction in commercial design corridors. The location of the proposed mosque on South Jefferson means that this site is within a commercial design corridor and relates to that portion of the neighborhood code. I'd like to read the relevant portions of those standards, or some of the relevant portions at least. Key sections of the standards are 501.2 and 501.3. 501.2 states, the scale of proposed new construction in corridors must respect the existing scale of surrounding historical structures by seeking to minimize the difference in height, mass, fenestration, and location. And section 501.3 states that new or moved commercial structures shall be positioned on the lot to not only enhance the character of the commercial location, but be compatible with the surrounding streetscape. So I'd like to, we'll kind of talk about two issues throughout this presentation. One issue that we will discuss in this presentation is the design of the building and whether or not it relates to the surrounding structures. In general, my belief is that it does. We'll also talk about the siding of the building. The siding of the building does not, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, it does not conform to the historic district standards, but we feel there are extenuating circumstances and other design considerations that can be put in place to mitigate that problem. So going to design considerations, I'd like to first say that institutional religious structures in most neighborhoods follow a very different design program from the typical commercial and residential structures that are around them. They often have high arched windows, they often have steeples, they're often far out of scale with the buildings around them, and that's just the nature of religious and institutional structures. So it's not surprising that a mosque would be differentiated from the surrounding buildings programmatically, and that would be reflected in the design itself. Additionally, I'd like to say that the applicant has made significant design alterations based on staff recommendations. The use of brick as the primary building material will be instrumental in creating a design relationship with adjacent structures. And now I'd like to talk about those design issues. Let's go back to here. So here you see the basic plan for the mosque. So as you can see, the main building is, if I can get this to work. I cannot. So the building is kind of set back from both Jefferson and Allen. It is a difficult site, I think, with the goal is to put the building right up at the corner, considering the design program of the mosque itself. You can see that the building is buffered by parking on the street sides of it. Now, I mentioned earlier that there had been significant changes in the design of the building from the congregation based on the recommendations of the staff. So the bottom picture is the original design we were presented for the north building elevation. This is the one that faces Allen Avenue. You can see it was initially a band of brick with a concrete foundation and ephes above it. You can see the design above it, I think, is dramatically improved with the placement of windows along the main facade and the decorative kind of tower portion that you see in the center of the design. Additionally, you'll see it's all brick, and we've asked that the concrete be scored or parged to replicate more of the design experience of stone. This is the east facade. It will face, or the west facade rather. It will face Jefferson. You can see on the bottom again was the original design we were presented, with almost no windows, very few openings, lots of ephes, lots of concrete, and some brick veneer. You can see above the facade is now almost entirely brick veneer. They have lightened the finish on the steel framing for the canopy that's proposed. I do think that's a design detail that if this is approved by the board, that we would want to look at some more with the applicant. But as you can see, I think they've been very responsive to us on design issues. And it really does have design components to it now, where the original design was much more like, a closed box. The other two elevations were less important to the staff, quite honestly. This is the east elevation, so this is the elevation that will face towards the homes. The original elevation is on the bottom. The upper elevation, you can see they've added the brick veneer. We've told them that would be great, and we'd prefer that brick veneer. However, if the applicant feels that they would like to use a less expensive material so that they can get the brick on the street-facing facades, that's something we would be open to. And the same is true on the south facade, which should not be street visible. I appreciate that they put glazing there and added brick in this elevation drawing. But again, I think you can see it's a significant improvement over the original design. So I'd like to move on to the subject of site planning, and this is the one where in consistent meetings with the applicant and neighborhood folks, I had initially hoped that we could get the design to fit a more traditional urban pattern. However, concern was brought up by the congregation that they wanted a buffer between their congregants and their experience of the site and the street. They've talked about enjoying being in the neighborhood and generally having a good experience there, but they've also talked about concerns with the safety of their congregants from being harassed and bothered. And if you look at most religious structures built historically in St. Louis, they're built right up at the street. And it's not uncommon to see congregants before or after religious services gather outside those buildings, for socializing and such. And the congregation expressed concern to the staff that when walking to the site or when sort of hanging out around the site, which people want to do around their religious buildings, that they are concerned about their safety. And I think the desire to be off the street is therefore a reasonable concern that they have. And so reluctantly, I'll admit, seeing that concern, I felt like it was our responsibility to them to understand their circumstances and be responsive to that. Therefore, the site is off the corner. Now, we proposed a design solution, and this is really, I think, in a lot of ways, where the Preservation Board really has to do some thinking tonight and be very thoughtful. A design solution that we came up with, and I'll actually say it was Jan Cameron who came up with this design solution, which I think is a very good one. Otherwise, I wouldn't call her out in the meeting to say that.
Yes, you would.
I would not. So don't throw people under the bus. So anyway, you see here pictures of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, which is a rather large facility in South St. Louis that was built in the 19th century and contains a number of religious buildings for various purposes. You also see that these buildings, some of them are at the street, but some of them are not. And I'm not sure that this complex of buildings would meet the standards for the McKinley Heights Historic District today if it were proposed like this either. The point here is that the wall around it we thought was an excellent example of a way to create the appearance of an urban design and to create the feel of that streetscape while at the same time allowing them to set their building back to respond to the safety concerns that they expressed to us. So in response to that, we've had a number of discussions regarding that idea of the wall. And I'd like to kind of go through those. And I'm hoping this will work because it'll be much easier if it does. This is a design submitted to us at one point by the congregation. It's a little hard to read from where you all are sitting, but it's still not going to work. It basically calls for, at the corner, a wall. See that? Mm-hmm. It calls for a wall structure at approximately that location. So that's one solution to, at least at the corner, create that, that feeling of a building edge that you would see in an urban neighborhood. This was a design that was discussed with neighborhood folks that they at one point were comfortable supporting. They're here tonight. They'll tell you if they still support this or not, and if they are comfortable with it or not still, how they're feeling. See, this one's not hard to show. The red, as you see, would be the wall in this case. Let's see. And notice that that covers the Jefferson frontage along here, the Allen frontage along here, and then even the side that is on the east side of it. I should note that the building line for the residential structures is approximately here as you go on down the street this way. A proposal that the staff is submitting today, and this is an effort to get to a point where we think maybe it's a compromise between what the neighborhood folks have suggested and what has been suggested by the congregation, would be a wall that leaves out the portion here, which really there's a setback all along here that meets this line. So the setback isn't that different the further you go down Allen. The benefit of this is that it would cover the Allen Street frontage. Our proposal in our staff recommendation is for 8 feet in height. There is a section of the code that deals with screening parking, which calls for a minimum of 5 feet of height. So there is some room here for working with these ideas in moderation. This is the suggestion that we as the staff are presenting today. In conclusion, I'd just like to state that an aspect of the agenda item that cannot be ignored is the value of diversity in community. By accommodating the needs of the congregation while advancing design conditions to gain a better design, the structure can fit into its context better and meet the needs of the congregation as well. So preliminary findings and conclusions of the staff are: the Cultural Resources Office consideration of the criteria of the new construction standards in the commercial corridor for the McKinley Heights Historic District lead to these preliminary findings. The proposed sites at 23 to 26 to 46 Allen in the McKinley Heights District. The design relates to this, the design of the building relates to the surrounding buildings based on its height, use of brick, and the brick wall that could surround the property to shield the parking from view. That the wall that surrounds it be dark and 8 feet in height and extend the length of the Jefferson property line and the Allen property line. The brick is not required on the south and east facades of the building. And due to concerns about personal safety, it is understood that the siding of the building does not conform to the standards, but it is mitigated by the items I just mentioned. Based on the preliminary findings, the Cultural Resource Office recommends that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the proposed design with the stipulation that details and specifications are submitted to the Cultural Resources Office for review and final plans and exterior materials that are reviewed and approved by the Cultural Resources Office. I do have 3 letters from the McKinley Heights Neighborhood Association. One is from October, and 2 were received within the last few days. I'd like to make those available to the board, and I know, Rocco, you may have been planning on doing that, but you're welcome to add more to that if you want.
Are those the ones I was copied on?
One of them was, and 2 of them were not, I believe.
I just wanted to make sure that they were on the record.
Yes.
Okay, great,
Yes.
thank you.
So with that, I'm available to answer any questions you all may have for me.
Good on this end. Commissioner Vizentainer. Commissioner Richardson?
So why an 8-foot wall? Seems so tall.
The feeling was that a taller wall would have more of the height that you find in a building as opposed to a knee wall or something like that. I'm not sitting here saying, 8 feet or bust as far as the staff is concerned, so it could be shorter than that. I think particularly along the Allen Street frontage by the parking at the east end of the lot, at that point, you already have a setback from the street. So there, I think, say a 5-foot wall could certainly be more appropriate. The wall of the building across the street that I showed, that's certainly taller than 5 feet. I would say that's at least 8 feet. So there's a relationship that can be built there if you do it at 8 feet. But again, I think, the congregation has concerns about graffiti and vandalism and having to be responsible for maintaining that. The neighborhood has concerns about maintaining the urban form. So I think we have folks with 2 valid sort of concerns that are natural for their own constituencies to have, and I had really hoped to be able to come here today with a consensus of both groups, but it didn't work out that way. So instead, we have a design that I think is vastly improved, and some questions about some techniques that could be used to improve the appearance of the urbanistic aspects of the construction vis-a-vis the siding of the building, and that's what we're really grappling with today.
And show me the corner wall slide again. The suggestion of a wall one.
Is it this one?
Where would the wall be?
Well, it was a little hard to tell, but I think, and certainly the congregation can clarify this because they submitted it, but there's an arrow pointing here and here. It looked to me like this wall was mainly proposed for the corner.
Okay. Tony, you have questions?
Dan, do you have streetscape?
Elevation of this building, like with the other buildings around it, do you mean? I do not have one of those. Would you like to see the pictures of the street again, Anthony?
Yes, if we can look at
All
it.
right, that's something I can do. Let's see. Let me. I also do have, I believe I have the copies of the drawings with me at the table. If I don't, I can get them and pass them around as well, if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, let us proceed to hearing public input. First of all, are the applicants here? Okay, who is the primary speaker for the applicants? Okay, you can arrange your presentation however you want and call whoever you want to come next. I won't necessarily follow this. It's your presentation.
Okay.
Tell us your name, please.
My name is Tim Kaminsky. I'm the president of the Kuba Foundation.
Okay, and your address, please.
My address, 1925 Allen.
Okay, proceed.
Yes, peace be with you all today, and thank you for giving us a chance to present our proposal. As was mentioned, we had made some substantial changes in design, and we're trying to work with everybody, with the city, with the neighborhood association, and however, the placement and the position of the mosque is crucial to our faith and our needs. Our faith, because the direction in which we pray, it's conducive to the direction in which we pray. And also, the safety, as was mentioned, is a big factor, especially since we're focused on the youth, and a lot of youth are present almost all the time. So, and we really have a concern about safety, and we have a precedent to say why. Also, the space. This is the best for space. The alternatives among the alternatives we were presented with was the tearing down of a building, and we found that to be not a good alternative. It wouldn't be able to fit where it is now without tearing the building down. We didn't want to go that road, and so that's why, that's another reason why it is where it is. Like to tear a building down, I don't think is right, or another suggestion was to go to a different lot to purchase some other land, but there was no parking there. And after all the trouble we went through just trying to establish enough parking space, and that's one of the needs that we have, and why the positioning of the mosque is right. Our concerns about the wall have to do with vandalism and what have you. When we're amenable to having a wall, and if that's the way it's got to be, we're fine with it. But we do have concerns about the wall. And I'm forgetting everything that I had to say right now, but I'm going to call Aisha to the stand. She'll state her full name. And then how do I do this after she speaks? Do I designate someone else? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's my son, Musa. I'm Aisha. I'm here to speak on behalf of Kaba Masjid. I've been a part of this family for almost a year now.
Okay, tell us your address, please.
1925 Allen as well.
Okay, proceed.
For our proposed plan, as we've suggested that we were interested in constructing a new masjid, new mosque, it is crucial, one, for our youth. We have expanded tremendously in the amount of time that I've been there. Our current position where we are now, it's almost too hard to be able to accommodate that many youth in that type of building that we have. And so it is crucial that we expand our space and that we have more placement. For parking in the wall, I hate to refer to it as a wall because it almost seems as if we are blocking ourselves off, and that is not the case. We don't want to seem isolated or blocked off from the world. We are an inviting, welcoming place. All doors are open for everyone. So for us to have a wall that high, again, graffiti, vandalism, maybe a cult or secular, we don't want to seem like that. We want it to be known this is a welcoming place. This is an open door for everyone. This is our family. You guys are welcome. Everyone is welcome. Safety for our children, we need that parking lot. As you can see, I have a 4-year-old. He's busy. He's one of 5. And I have similar brothers and sisters who also have children and youth that move around. And to have us closer to the streetway or to not have a barrier or parking lot there to protect that, that's dangerous. I don't need my kid running out in Jefferson and I'm trying to get another one out of the car. So to us, this is very important to us. We need this space. We are not just somewhere to pray. We are an educational facility. Our youth participate, not just in this area. As much as we can volunteer in the community, we will. Helping our neighbors, whatever it takes, cleaning up our neighborhood. We are all for that. We are all for family. We're all for one. And we just really hope to get this going. So as far as us, where we stand with the wall, We don't really want a wall, but will we go to meet urban design needs? Yes, we will try to conform, but I do think it's best that both parties try to come together as one, to have one plan where everyone agrees upon and that it is respectable for everyone's boundaries. The facing of the Qibla towards the north, that is very important to us because we pray facing the north. And I think that's everything I had to say.
What is his name again? What is his name?
Musa,
He is a great exhibit.
thank you.
Like to call Linda to the forward. Linda? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Linda Kahn, and I'm at 1918 Mississippi Avenue. Okay. I've been a member of the mosque that they have right now currently there in the area since they opened it. I agree completely that they need bigger space. They need something safer for the children. I love the location where they're wanting to put the mosque. However, I'm not too thrilled about that wall. You know, I'm kind of like Miss Aisha. I think it's definitely closed in. And you know, I grew up in St. Louis City, Soulard, all around in the area, and I mean, they don't have a lot of areas that have the tall 8-9 foot buildings. I mean, it's just something they don't do. The how would I say, not the buildings, but the walls. I can't get my train of thought there. But I think it's definitely, you know, if they wanted to build a little bit of a wall there, I could see maybe 4 foot, possibly 3 foot. But again, this is supposed to be just like any other house of worship. It's supposed to be open. It's supposed to be where anybody can walk past and say, oh, that's a house of prayer. You know, maybe I'll go in and say hi, see what it's about. But if it's got an 8 or 9 foot wall built all the way around, would you want to go in? I wouldn't. I mean, I'd be terrified. I'd be like, I don't know, what are they doing in there? It's all closed in. So me personally, you know, I definitely don't think they need the wall. But if they were, you know, wanting us to, you know, consider the wall, definitely something a lot smaller than what it is now. Is that fair to say? I hope.
Call Dwight Gay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Tell us your name
My name is Dwight Gay.
and your address.
It's 2318 Allen.
Okay, what is your testimony?
I simply would like to say the presence of this mosque in our neighborhood adds very much to the diversity and the beauty of our neighborhood. I support them building the mosque where they plan and hope they can do it with your blessing, your honor, because they've been around for quite some time. I've seen nothing but peace, and I like to see, like I said before, diversity from them being there. Thank you.
We're through. We're done. Thank you.
I may call you back in a minute.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a McKinley Heights Neighborhood Association leader here? Okay, you want to start? And if you know your group members, you may call them yourself in the order that you want.
That'd be great. I might ask to see your sheet in order to do so. If
Good
that's
enough.
okay. Okay.
Your name, please,
My name's Rocco Dana.
and your address.
I live at 2010 Geyer, which is just 3 or 4 doors down from the current location of the Cuba Foundation.
Proceed.
I work as an architect developer in McKinley Heights, where I live. I serve on the board of McKinley Heights Association as chair of development. I've been intimately involved with the proposed development from its first introduction to the neighborhood approximately a year ago. For me, this has included neighborhood meetings, board meetings, and 3 meetings with cultural resources and the representatives of the proposed development. Let me be perfectly clear. Our neighborhood association supports our neighbors of the Cuba Foundation expansion in our neighborhood. However, we are not willing to abandon the historic code that ensures the desirability and value of the neighborhood and its real estate. The proposed development violates the historic code in the following ways. Code 501.2 requires that, quote, new construction in the corridor, in this case a commercial corridor on Jefferson, must respect the existing scale of any surrounding historic structure by seeking to minimize the difference in height, mass, fenestration, and location. This is important because the character of our historic buildings is part of what gives our neighborhood its desirability. The proposed development violates this code by ignoring the existing historic structures, two of which are located on that block and are not shown on that plan. Code 5013 requires, this is the third code. I just want to point that out. The first one that I mentioned was the second code right off the beginning. Commercial structures shall be positioned on a lot to not only enhance the commercial location, but also to be compatible with the surrounding streetscape. This is important because it maintains the urban fabric of our city. It is, in this case, a commercial corridor. The proposed development violates this code by locating its building behind the existing buildings. Orientation. The neighborhood association recognizes and respects that the developer has a unique requirement for their development. Orientation towards Mecca. However, as stated by the developer in our meetings, only the prayer room needs to be located towards Mecca. Other ancillary rooms, such as offices, classroom, storage rooms, bathrooms, utility rooms, etc., do not need to be oriented towards Mecca. In our meetings, I sketched out a building that followed the setback of neighboring buildings and angled in the back for their prayer room. Safety. There are compliant ways that the development could have been designed that would have addressed safety concerns and would have complied with the historic standards. I drew a simple concept for them in the meeting that we had together, building on a street with the main entrance in the back. We need not look further than the next block to find new construction that has concerns with safety, but also complies with the historic code, the South Side Early Childhood Center. Here, the developer observed the setback and location criteria outlined by the historic code, as it sits directly on the corner of Russell and South Jefferson and exits out the back of the building. South Side's building completes the urban fabric of that corner. If you allow the design of this develop as it is cited, sitting alone on the site, rotated on its axis, parking lot up front in a historic district, what are you going to say to the next developer who wants to do the same? What do you say to the developer who presents a parallelogram-shaped building, or a developer who demands their building be oriented towards the sun? An A-frame single-family home? If this design is approved, what type of precedent would it set in our historic district in McKinley Heights or others like it? As keepers of our code, Cultural Resources' mission as the preservation agency is to work with the neighborhoods to preserve our city's historic and cultural heritage. We look to you, the Preservation Review Board, to stand up for the historic code where the Cultural Resources has not. I would like to say something directly to our neighbors, the representatives of this development. If today's design is not approved, do not let it discourage you for tomorrow's. You have worked hard to get to this point. I encourage you to continue. Thank you. And I'd like to call on Mark Reed to come up and speak next. And if I could get that list from you, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Mark Reed. I live at 2052 Russell, and I swear to tell the truth.
It's a preliminary review.
I think sometimes we tend to ignore, or at least try to downplay, the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room here is the fact that this is a mosque. I have absolutely no concern at all about that it's a mosque. I am glad that it's a mosque. I want to see a mosque in my neighborhood. I want to see diversity in my neighborhood. That's the reason I'm there. And I can well understand their consideration for safety, being a minority and a press group. Yes, they do have huge safety issues. Being a minority group myself, I understand that very well. But building walls is no way to build community. I think all we need to do is look at the most recent political screed to see what building a wall can do. It has absolutely united this country against it. For me, I've not been very much involved in the community for the last year because I've been dealing with other issues, but I have been following this project because I'm very concerned about how it plays out. I want to see this mosque built, but I want to see it built according to the codes that we've set up to protect our neighborhood, to keep it a historic neighborhood. Orienting a building on the diagonal in the middle of a lot is not keeping it all with the setback rules, with orientation on the street. None of those things are being followed, and I don't understand why. Why do we have a code if it's not going to be followed? I would like to see, quite frankly, and there are two buildings that are on the property, existing buildings, historic buildings. Whether or not they're contributing to the neighborhood's historic aspects, I would have to rely on Crow to determine that. But neither one of them are attractive buildings. They have been used for everything but what they were originally built for. They have very little of the original fabric left to them. And both of them will soon be in the ownership of the developers. The one they own already, the other one is closing in February. I would very much like to see, and I don't know if my neighborhood would agree with this or not, but I'd like to see those buildings raised in order that we could have a beautiful mosque sitting on Jefferson, facing it with parking behind, which would be far more secure and safe for children if they're right, the way it is now, they could easily run out in the street on two different sides. Building a big wall around it, that doesn't hide anything. It just says there's something there that we want to keep out, or something in there that wants to keep us out. And it's a perfect opportunity for graffiti, which we have more than enough in our neighborhood. So for those reasons, I would very much like to see the mosque built. I would like to see it stand up proud on Jefferson and be an integral part of this neighborhood. But hiding behind a building, hiding behind a sea of parked cars is not the way to do it. If you want to see what parked cars in front of a building looks like, all you need to do is go to the other end of the street at South Jefferson and Gravois. That intersection has 4 corners to it. 3 of them are parking lots in front of a building. It is also has been the #1 area for crime, for negative elements in our neighborhood, for alcoholism. Always problems at that corner. And that's not to say that by putting a wall up here, we're going to create McKinley Heights persona non grata #2. But I'm just saying that when you put parking lots in front of a building in a city which is supposed to be designed for walking, that's why we have sidewalks, you're creating a suburban structure that doesn't work in the city. So I would so strongly recommend that you deny this current project as it is, but work with them to make it work for the city and for the neighborhood. Thank you. I will entertain questions if you have any.
I'm Jim Sonamaker. I live 2104 Waverly Place. My way down here, I thought, oh boy, I'm going to get a respite from all the national political stuff. Thanks, Mark, for dragging me back. I'm a 20-year resident of McKinley Heights, not the oldest resident, not the longest term. I think we have one couple who's been there, well, the gentleman has lived there all of his 81 years, born and acquired his parents' home, and they've longtime residents. I'm also a realtor. I've served off and on the MHNA board, and have been involved with the historic code. That was an ordeal, as those of you who have been through that know. And that is why I'm here, to defend that code. When the foundation came to us and said they wanted to develop a property, I was for it 100%. Their current location is not appropriate. I avoid that intersection just to make sure I'm not going to hit a child running through the streets. And I understand the need for having room for them to play and visit without the threat of an accident. My concern is that there have been numerous meetings back and forth, and each time they come back with the exact identical plan. I think that Mark's remarks as to utilization of the site without the two buildings to face it on Jefferson is a stroke of brilliance. I could support something like that, but currently I have to object based on the specifics within the code. I would add one caveat. I think that the masjid needs to do a brownfield assessment. The vacant lot there was at one time occupied by a dry cleaners, and that can result in a health hazard. So it needs to be assessed and remediated if that exists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan O'Neill. I'm at 2026 South Jefferson. My wife and I bought the building at the corner of South Jefferson and Russell about almost a year and a half ago. We've been renovating it, and we're new neighbors. We've been there for 2 months, and so I just want to say I look forward to sharing dumpsters with you all, and just chatting it up over the dumpster anytime we have a chance to see each other. I'm a Christian minister, and my wife and I are going to be starting a church in South City, so I definitely understand the concept of caring about my religious beliefs and wanting to respect those. And if there ever were a plan or a code or an ordinance that would prohibit the free expression of my religious beliefs, I wouldn't want that. In the same manner, if there ever is a code that would prohibit the expression of my friends who have not yet got to meet and their free expression of religion as a neighbor, I would oppose that. So underneath issues that fall within that realm, that's where I would stand. Now, outside of those issues that would prohibit the free expression of religion, I can definitely empathize with with a desire to deviate from the code. I grew up in Arkansas. I'm an Arkansas boy. Y'all don't even understand. When we bought something in Arkansas, it was mine. You did whatever you want to with it. So when I moved to the city, it was a lot different when I saw these rules and regulations and occupancy permit. We didn't have occupancy permits in Blytheville, Arkansas. And so it definitely was a hard thing to come by and to learn for. And when a man says that it's going to cost me $1,500 to replicate my front door, that's a bit of an investment that I'm having to do to keep with historical codes and build things that are historically accurate. Now, I'm not going to pay $1,500 for a door. I think we found another way that still sticks with the exterior meeting historical codes. But to say I can empathize, I definitely do empathize. At the same time, as a neighbor, I am thankful for people who are making an investment in the community. As someone on the same block, I'm thankful that someone's making an investment in that block and putting money into it. I would ask, though, outside of those issues, issues that, as a neighbor, outside of those issues that would prohibit the free expression of religion, if there can be a way to do it, I would definitely encourage to adhere to the code from the perspective of we're investing in the community, we're putting money into this to keep this historically accurate. And so I would definitely stand on that side, and I would have to be, personally shown from my opinion that there would be a different way that would prohibit it, which from my understanding, that I have not seen that yet, but that's my opinion. And as one last note, as a neighbor, I can promise you if there ever is an issue, and as a Christian minister, if there ever is an issue where people are attacking you or there is an issue, I will stand with you. And I'm not as big as a wall, and I can't hold as many people out as a wall, but if I ever see the issue, as your neighbor, I stand with you in your in your free expression of religion. And we may not see the same thing on everything, but you are my brothers and you are my sisters, and I want to thank you for making an investment in the neighborhood.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Scott Lokitz. I also reside in the McKinley Heights neighborhood at 2001 Russell at Mississippi. The mosque is currently 1 block down the street from me. I've been, I think I said I've been a resident for 20 years. My building was actually an LRA building that I got in a condemned state, renovated, and then got a landmark award.
You're not the 80-year-old guy, are you?
No, but no. I really like the fact that they're trying to reinvest into our neighborhood. I do understand the historic concerns that go along with it. I think that there should be other options besides the wall, possibly like another religious establishment in our McKinley Heights neighborhood, the Serbian church. It has a wrought iron fence with brick posts. It's set back from the street further than other buildings. It has a parking lot across the street, but it doesn't have, it's beautifully landscaped, it looks fine. It's open, yet it still has a bit of privacy. As far as graffiti goes, there has been a lot of it, and it will only continue, and walling off an area so that it's more private or more safe is understandable, but I could really see something more with shrubs and a wrought iron style fence that would give a barrier between the sidewalk and the parking lot. As far as the angle of the building, it isn't necessarily square to what everything else is, but being that this is a new business or on commercial property, a new facility, that could, I have no objection to that aspect. That's really, I don't know the historic code as well as some other people, but it looks like, in my opinion, they've done their best to try to make the materials compliant with what meets the historic codes. That's what I have.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Eric Boswell. I'm the secretary of the McKinley Heights Neighborhood Association.
Who is your exhibit there?
This is Bennett.
Okay. Hey, Bennett.
And I live at 2117 Allen. It's about a block and a half down the road from the proposed development. Yep. And yeah, I'd like to echo a lot of what my neighbors have said, and that we've been supporting the mosque and the development as much as we can. We do have concerns that it needs to abide by the historical code. I moved in here knowing that it was an historical district and kind of expected that would be that'd be enforced. But I do think that there's that we can find some common ground. I think there's definitely been some communication issues back and forth. For instance, the wall were they going to put the wall in, what that wall was going to look like. It's been kind of vague in the last set of plans we saw. So that's that coming up today was kind of news to me. like what's been said, we do want to see them, we do want to see it built, but we also want to see that it does fit in with our neighborhood. The plan that's put before us now, I don't see that it does. So my expectation is that there'll be some consistency with the historic code.
Thank you.
My name is Jay Reeves. I live in the 2700 block of Allen, which is just across Jefferson on the Fox Park side of of Jefferson. And I first want to thank you guys for taking so much time to hear what everyone's saying on all sides. I think it's good to have a little bit of open dialogue. I think it seems like there probably needs some more. I think there's a lot more, it sounds like there's a lot more shared criticism of this approach where it's going from both sides than there is real conflict. But I think I'm an architect also, and I am the chair of the Historic Standards and Development Committee in Fox Park. And so I've been kind of watching this from far from the outside and not involved with what the good effort that Dan's been putting in and this team's been putting in.
That's Fox Park, the hot new neighborhood?
Hottest neighborhood in 2017, yeah. Somehow that's the moniker. So I think that what I'd like to point out, though, is that I'm afraid that the criticism of this site plan and the criticism of the building's inability to work with the historic standards is a little bit of and that the safety concerns are something that results in a plan that's only like this is a little bit of a false equivalency. I think that there's really a number of ways to address safety and that street at the same time. And from my perspective, it just, and again, not seeing what you guys have all gone through, it feels like there's some easy moves that can be made to address the street. Perhaps keeping the entry on the west side so that they don't deposit directly onto the street. They don't require a wall. The wall to me was kind of described as something to screen the sins of what's a bad site plan. And it feels to me that that's really not necessary. If I were part of the congregation, I agree. I wouldn't want boundaries between my neighbors and I. I wouldn't want people to be able to hide on either side of that wall as I'm coming in. I think there's some real odd safety considerations there, but I think if this thing could be, the thrust of the building can maintain this orientation and something on that north side can really address the sight line, the street setback, I think it could really solve a lot of these problems. So again, from the outside, it just feels like it maybe wasn't something that was explored or openly discussed, but it feels like investing a little effort in that would be much better than investing in both the cost and the debate of the wall. So I think there's I think one can hit what the site requirements are from the historic standards and the programmatic requirements if there's a little bit of creative effort in that regard. I'd also like to point out that I was going to mention the Serbian Orthodox Church as well, because it's a really great example of both what Dan pointed out as something that they don't want to do, which is stairs coming right down to the sidewalk, which is what happens on the west side of their church. But they also have that setback community hall with a really wonderful garden in front and a plaza, and I think that's a real community resource. We go there for fish fries almost every Friday during Lent, and we're not affiliated with the church at all, but it's a really wonderful resource. And I think that's something that could happen here that could help address the safety as well. If one were to consider not filling the site with parking, it may allow both some of the public spaces that have been described with a planted edge and address the building consideration. And this particular block is a very unique, I live on Allen, so I'm a little further in, but this particular block with that warehouse actually provides a unique situation where there's not tons of parking on that street. There's not a lot of residents around that street. So it seems like there's an opportunity to park on that, if there's drivers, to park on that north side of Allen without even bothering the residents and maybe giving you an opportunity to do something more effective and kind of more dynamic and really interesting with the balance of your site. So it's not the car so much that's forcing you to be in that spot. It might be something that's more public. So anyway, I just want to, I want to say that I'm hopeful that this is going to be built. I'm hopeful that it can be it seems like some subtle movement on how that thing hits the site can be done. The corner's already on the site setback, so you could imagine if that we're just filling in that zone and then leaving part of that grid shifted towards what the religious requirements are. I think there's a win-win for both sides, and I look forward to it being able to communicate or to contribute not just to the neighborhood, but the historic district both. So I think it's, I feel like there's room for that. So I'm hopeful that that's something can be said. And one last sidebar, if I could. As an architect, there's an odd thing about this whole presentation. It kind of seems like this site was left behind, and they came in and said, we want to do this, and then it was slow steps back to say, well, let's get you closer to the historic code. And I think that's a weird model for us to really embrace. I don't think it's really respectful of the CRO time as well, because it kind of tells me if I don't really want to comply, I can come in with a really subpar solution for site plan and just say, give me the 5 things to do. And then you do those 5 things, and you've not gone to the minimum yet. But our historic standard's meant to be a minimum unless there's a real variance requirement. And I don't know that this particular, the needs that they have requires a variance of any time. I think you can really hit them both. So I think it's a tough precedent, not so much from the building point of view, but of what it's going to do to their time if people kind of do this regularly in their kind of approach to working with the city. But again, thanks for listening to everyone. Yeah.
As far as I know, I think that's everyone in our community that would like to speak, so that I know of. So I'm going to give you back this.
Thank you very much. Is there anything that you'd like to add? No. Is there anybody who is here who would like to speak who has not yet spoken? Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
My name is Chaudhry Aftab Ahmed. I am the treasurer of the foundation, although I don't live here, but a member and the treasurer and the board member of the Masjid Quba Foundation.
Where do you live?
I live on 10 Chapel Court, St. Louis, Missouri 63021.
Okay, proceed, please.
And my point is that this place is in itself is a historic thing. The mosque is going to enhance the historical value of the area. Why I am saying that? Because there is no other building which is like this. If we make it properly and we make it like a beautiful building and people can see it and it's open and people are welcome to come in and see and look what they are doing and what is happening, which is the code of the Islam, that anybody who wants to come is free, is welcome to come and see what we are doing and what are we teaching. So it is all peace and peace and peace. There is nothing else. And to my knowledge and to my thinking, it's my own thinking, it's my own point, that if we can keep the codes also, and if we can keep the historical position of the building according to the facing towards the Kaaba, towards the Qibla, then it will be a source of enhancement in the historical position of that district. The houses around this place will become more better because of the demand. The people who are going to go to this house of Allah, this house of God, they would like to live closer to it. I have seen in West County, the masjid on Weedman Road. It was built about 20 years ago, 21, 22 years ago, and in the morning prayer, I was there. There used to be only 4 people. Now on the Friday congregation, we have 2 congregations. We cannot put two congregations together at one time. And in the streets around that mosque is full of the people who go to that congregation. So my point is that building of this place will enhance the historical value of this area, and it will not be like something which is left over and the parking lot is not cleaned up and there is no greenery. There will be green spots, there will be some bushes and other things. It will look attractive and pretty. Like we see on the picture the brother showed us on the side of Allen Street, the set off, and then the buildings are standing there, and in front of them there are small, short lawns and some vegetation and some other places, and the footpath, the walkway. All those things enhance the situation and the area. So that is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Sayyid Ali. I reside in 2220 McNair. We started this mosque at its current location, 1925 Allen, 16 years ago. We were a small group, all students. With time we have grown, so our needs are. We bought this land. We were looking for a piece of land where we can build a mosque. We were fortunate enough to find this piece of land a few years back. And since then, we have been thinking how to place a mosque there that will not offend any code or any person in our neighborhood, because we are thankful for all our neighbors who has welcomed us. I have been through a painful negotiation with some officials of the neighborhood. I got signatures more than the membership of itself, neighborhood association membership. We got signatures from our neighbors supporting our plan as is. We cannot satisfy every single person who lives in the neighborhood. You will always find people opposing this group or that group. I'm here to say that this lot's been sitting there for the last 15 years. It looks ugly. And when I talked to Anna, I heard that she resigned from her post yesterday or day before yesterday. She said, go to Preservation Board and ask for variance, and I'll support you. Unfortunately, she's not here today. But here's I think, if we are not given variance, if we are not given approval as is, that lot may be sitting next 15 years that we don't like. We may be suffering that we don't like. I would request all of you to expand your horizon. A garden looks beautiful with variety of flowers with different smell, different type. You bring the best flower with best smell, all look same. Nobody would like to go to that garden second time. Thank you.
Would you repeat the part of your testimony where you said you had signatures from?
Yes, sir. And I have with me here.
Okay, would you give that to
Sure.
Donna, please? Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Just want to say one small, 1 year. Anybody who own the property over there, my name is Zahir.
And your address?
I live in Manchester.
Okay.
So I'm a programmer analyst. People who are worried about the property or people know money is very important thing. Anywhere you go in St. Louis, look at the prices of the houses where the mosque is. Very minimum 33% more than other houses. That is, anybody could look at that. Anywhere you go, find the mosque, next to that, look at the property. And 4 streets away or 10 streets away, look at that. If I bought the house, I want to see not go down. The neighborhood will go up. You could go and look at any mosque. We are probably, I'm not day to day looking at that. Probably there will be cost around maybe $700,000 or $1 million. So just want to say the people who bought the property over there. Check anywhere in the country.
Thank you.
I'm Keith Houghton, 1805 LaSalle. And just real quick for context, because it wasn't mentioned, diagonally across the intersection is where the McDonald's is. So the impact of the historic structure, to me, is not that great because that intersection is already pretty much compromised from a historic standpoint.
Okay, thank you all. Give us just 1 second here to get organized. Strong opinions down there, Tony?
I have some opinions. I'd like to see that corner. I'm going to pull that up.
Okay.
Let's see the address here.
Is there something behind me? Okay. You all have been the best opposing audience that I have ever seen. So, my thanks to all sides. We're not always civil here. This was a very nice moment. Commissioner Robinson has the only dial-up cell phone in America. It's hard to believe that the $4 a month that he pays for it has speed as fast as this. Give a motion? Or should we let Commissioner Richardson do it while he's away from the table?
Commissioner Richardson? Sure.
David, have you got a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the proposed new construction with the stipulation that design details and specifications are submitted to the CRO for review and final plans and exterior materials are approved by the Cultural Resources Office. And I make my motion without requiring an 8-foot wall.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Richardson?
I think houses of worship are anchors of the community and the neighborhood and stabilizing factors. And so I think this is actually a good thing for the neighborhood. And I don't like the wall because I think that closes it in and it's not open and inviting. So if there was to be some kind of something to, just mark the corner, it should be, as one of the neighbors I think said, maybe something like the Serbian church has or their banquet facility has, where it's a wrought iron fence with the pillars, which I think this board approved that a while back, if I recall. And I think the historic district code here, I think we have worked hard with McKinley Heights to enforce their code, and I think this is one of those situations where, the code probably, I didn't think that there'd be a mosque ever proposed for this site. So, we're trying to fit a mosque in into the code that wasn't really thought of. And I would note that the code, it talks about the scale being, it must respect, and it seeks to minimize, and it's supposed to be compatible as opposed to comparable. Some of our historic district codes, like Lafayette Square, is okay, the height must be within 10%. It's very rigid. And that's not the way this code is written, especially with respect to the commercial corridor. So I think there is some flexibility there, and I think staff has worked with the foundation to come up with the best plan, and I think this would be a great addition to the neighborhood. And as a resident of Lafayette Square, I think I'm proud to have it next to my neighborhood.
Commissioner Bissenthaler, comment? Commissioner Robinson? I know you were looking forward to the 30-foot wall. I saw your face every time you look at that wall. It was a frown, Tony.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think the wall is completely uninviting and does not work very well. I do have some issues with the building's orientation. I have designed 2 mosques, although neither have been in an urban setting, and so I have never had to deal with this particular issue before. But what I do know, let's start with that, is that the building itself can be oriented such that it meets our historic district standards, because only the Qibla needs to face Mecca, and with that being said, this design could, in fact, achieve both requirements, that of the neighborhood historic standards and that of the mosque. So with that, I find it difficult for me to just say, yes, we'll allow the orientation of the building to change, when I know from designing them that the building does not have to be oriented in the way that it is.
I'm sorry,
No, I mean, I'm open to
Commissioners,
hearing.
do you want to hear this part of the discussion? It is unique in our experience. No?
If Tony does, it's fine.
You do?
Yes.
Please.
The building itself, the whole building itself.
Could you go to the mic? Just, there are people in the back who will need to hear this. We do not normally allow additional testimony, but we have not seen a mosque.
Sir, what I understood from your statement, that the orientation, that direction facing the Qibla is not required for the building. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that I know from designing mosques that the Qibla should be facing Mecca, and so the Qibla needs to be oriented
Facing northeast, that's what we have there.
yes, but the building can, so
Yes, sir.
Qibla
I got you.
building.
Yes. What happens, this mosque, it serves, almost 90% of it serves as a prayer room, because we have youth. They will be in their classes. We do not have classes like regular school classes. They're sitting there. They can perform prayer right there in the basement or on first floor. People are not required to go in a particular specific prayer room. And it is because it's a very small building. Contrary to, I don't know, you must have designed something huge where you can have a prayer room, where you can have classrooms and other things.
Yes.
This whole building is designed in a way that people can pray anywhere they want to. Sisters can pray while they're taking care of their babies. Most of our community members, they're sisters and children. Only a small group are adult male, those who will be standing in that prayer room. We had all these things in our mind. That's why I said we had a 1 year painful back and forth with people who would like to see us facing north, the building facing north or east or west. I wish we could do that. But we are building it for years to come, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. We have grown from 15 to 75 students. I'm expecting to grow more. So if I decide to limit ourselves to a prayer room facing Qibla, rest of the building will be meaningless. When people like to pray, they will be confused. And that's what happened in our current building. Some is praying facing east, even though we have lines facing towards Qibla. I don't want to create that confusion. And I don't think you would like to have confusion in your home. This is our home. Home for worship. We would like to build the way we think fits our needs for present and for future. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Commissioner Robinson, anything else? Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Commissioners, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Shirley. Commissioner Richardson?
I would note that we do not have a quorum to go in to consider appeals of staff denials.
Let me call a roll and determine if that's so. Commissioner Robinson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Visentano, are you here?
Yes.
I am here. That is 4 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Correct. We do not have a quorum. How do you wish to proceed?
I would recommend that we then continue these appeals to our next meeting at which we have a quorum.
Do you want to hear them?
I think we have the ability to hear them.
Have the ability to decide them. Can we hear them?
I think to decide them, we need to have a quorum, and we need to have that testimony available for the quorum who would decide them.
Okay.
Chairman, the item on Miami, I don't know how the council for the item on Miami would like to waive any time requirements and continue that to next month's meeting, if that's correct. I believe I'm summarizing.
Will you step to the microphone and sit? Yeah. Go ahead.
Your Honor, our
Nope.
members.
Too soon or too late, but not right.
If
And too
the
scary.
board feels that the quorum is essential to make a valid decision, we'll waive any, we'll hear it next month and waive any time constraints.
Commissioner Richardson, you have a motion?
I move that we accept his waiver of the time constraint and hear item D at the next board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is deferred.
Thanks.
Okay.
Agenda item E is 48 Washington Terrace. Commissioner Richardson,
Same issue. So I would move that we,
let me, for the record, call a roll. I am present. Commissioner Robinson, are you present?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you present?
yes.
Commissioner Visentano, are you present? The commissioners present. I hear none. Commissioners, there are 4 of 9 commissioners present. There is not a quorum. May we?
A representative of 48 Washington Terrace, and we'll waive that right too, please, or we'll waive it till the next meeting.
The time requirement to hear an
Yes.
appeal.
Commissioner Richardson, do you have a motion?
I move that we move item E to our next meeting when we have a quorum and understand that the applicant has waived his right to be heard within 45 days.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Commissioners, agenda items F and G. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board recommend to staff that item F and G, that the staff prepare a report to the State Historic Preservation Office that both properties meet the requirements of the National Register criteria with respect to item F, A, and B, and with respect to item G, criteria A.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Do I hear a motion? Commissioner Richardson?
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we stand adjourned. Nicely done.